My sister's making a little school. She got some funds in. She's been teaching kids English and stuff.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Gook audio podcast. Today we've got another episode of Life in Bali, the respite from all that Zen nonsense. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free of economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So we have two guests today, Claudia Ionker and her father, Otto Ionker. Claudia's fourth generation Dutch Indonesian, and Otto is third generation Dutch Indonesian. I think he just turned 91. Yeah, in January. Sometime in January. I'm not sure of the date. So it's either he already has, I think he already has, or he will soon. And we had a podcast with Claudia's sister, Tanya, who runs the Lumbung Damu with her husband, Lumpat, who we had a podcast with a couple of months ago, and Tanya 4 months ago. I don't know exactly. So first we're going to call Claudia, and then I'm going to sit down and talk with her father. And that'll come in at about an hour and 14 minutes. Now, the actual chronology is that I talked to her father a couple of months ago while right at the same time that I did Lumpat, because we were staying at Lumbung Damu, Katrinka and I, for some celebration for her birthday. Place near Chandidas in Buitan. It's on the ocean. It was raining quite a bit at the time, but we didn't care. We enjoyed it. So Tanya drove me about 40 minutes further. In the somewhere in the podcast, I say that it's maybe in the one with Otto. I say that Otto is an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes from where we live. No. I think it's more like 2 hours and a half from where we live, or 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I don't know. Now, we'll see. I don't drive. I just ride. And you don't drive fast here. Not like in America. And the roads are narrower and all that. And then I just called Claudia up this evening. And because I wanted to ask her a little bit about her father. And then I decided to put them both on the same podcast. So you'll learn all you need to know about her. There doesn't need to be any more introduction. Let's just get right into it. Oh, well, I will say something. When Tanya and I arrived, it's It's in a part of Bali, east of here, that is not not heavily populated at all. And we went off the main road and up into the mountainside, and then down a little road to their gate where it ended. And when we get out, I hear all this gamelan music coming up in the, it's just in the air. And so I started recording it right then. And we walked down steps to their home. And I keep recording as we're going down. And then when we get to their home, there's this beautiful vista of rice fields and mountainsides. It's all lush and green and beautiful. And the gamelan music is coming from down below, like, I don't know, a mile away, and way down in the valley. And it continues into the beginning of my conversation with Otto. And I just recorded Otto with my iPhone. And there's a lot of noise there. And people working right next to us in the kitchen, making dolls and sewing, and that might be the kitchen too. They might be working in the kitchen. I don't remember, and mainly I was paying attention to Otto because we just met when I came in, and we sat down out there on the veranda and talked. And they brought us tea and goodies, and so first we'll call Claudia. And then we would talk with Otto. And that's it. So here we go.
Hello.
Hello, Claudia. Oh, there we are. I have some questions about your father, but I'd like to ask you about you. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. When we were at your place, which is really quite interesting, as we were leaving, I looked at that building that's being built. It's just got the foundation now, right up at the top.
Yeah.
And what are your plans with that?
Um, I did a GoFundMe for supplies for teaching the local kids English, and I got a lot more than I expected. So I plan to build a yoga shala that I can use later for teaching people yoga. I mean, I'm not going to do the typical yoga course. I'll do yoga for anybody that says they can't do yoga.
Right.
Basically telling them that yoga is not posing so that you can post it on Instagram, but yoga is brewing a cup of coffee by hand and being in that moment, basically. But I was always also going to use it as a classroom for teaching, the local kids crafts that they could, English and crafts that they can use, because I hope that maybe people are going to realize from this pandemic that we have right now that maybe our life should change a little bit.
Yeah.
That it's not just about tourism, and it's not about selling your land and selling your religion or selling your culture, but that because people, humans are very creative, and I have a feeling they've sort of lost that in the past generations, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I want to teach them, and that's what that space is for.
So what's the name? Where are you located? I went from Buitan, where Tanya lives, to your place. I don't know where we went. We went further. East. That's all I know.
Yeah. We're in what they call Abang,
Uh huh. Yeah.
Indonesian.
Okay. That's neat. That's neat. But just describe where you are. Where you are. I wouldn't know how
Okay,
to describe.
we're we're basically at the foothills of Lempuyang, which is that one of the oldest Hindu temples, opposite
Ah.
from the Gunung Agung, across the
Mm-hmm.
valley from Tirtaganga.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
we're just before Ahmed. We're about half an hour's drive before Ahmed.
Oh, that's a nice place. I like Ahmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh.
There's that mountain. There's that the Lempuyang mountain is um, borders between our place and Ahmed, which is why we get a lot of rain, and Ahmed tends to be dry.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so this have have you been involved with working with the local community before?
No, I mean, the only thing that I did locally was the fact that I hired people from my village here. I refused to look outside of this area to hire anybody.
Yeah.
When the pandemic started, and one of my staff members said that she was basically, she didn't know what to do um, with her kids about schooling. And I said, you know what, we can use this time to learn English. And word spread, and at one point I had like 100 kids here. It's severely reduced because I've stopped letting them swim in our pool. Um, well, our pool filter is broken, so I can't have anybody swimming in the pool at the moment. But I have
Ah.
I have 4 classes a week, 2 times for the high school kids and 2 times for grade school kids. The high school kids are very, very dedicated. They're very interested in learning more about English.
Mm-hmm.
The grade school kids, I have to vary. Sometimes I teach them how to make a pizza, or I teach them how to make granola. But I like to keep them busy because you know otherwise just
Yeah.
yeah otherwise they're gonna lose grip. Yeah, because these are very simple village people. I mean, our community is not as affected by the virus or the pandemic as other communities because basically it's a farming society. But that way,
Uh huh.
also, they're very simple people. So,
Hmm.
trying to get kids to do something out of what they normally do is not something that they understand.
Hmm. Hmm. Um. So how long have you been there
Well, yeah,
in that nice big old? Oh, it's an old home. It's a little colonial like or something like that.
yeah, because it's my parents. My parents built it, so of course, they did it more old-fashioned style. Um,
Uh huh.
I came here in 2009 or 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow, that long ago. Um, and my dad had lost his pension, and um, and I decided that if I was going to be able to keep this place, I would have to rent it out as like a B and B.
Uh huh. Well, he lost his pension. That's too bad. How did that happen?
Oh, my dad used to work for the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and you know how there was this thing where it started, I think in the 80s when they started selling, buying up companies and then selling them off piece by piece.
Yeah.
That's basically what happened. The Singer Sewing Machine Company was sold, and it was sold off in different pieces, and they had an insurance over a life insurance basically over the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and that was sold off. So anybody who was not residing in the U.S. lost their pension.
Yeah. There's so many people I've heard lose their pensions for different reasons.
Yeah,
Um, that's really terrible.
yeah.
Um, hmm. Hmm. Well, all right. You came there in 2009. What have you been doing there since then? Just taking care of the home and running it as sort of B&B?
Yeah, I've been doing that, and I still continue my business with the doll fashions for collectible dolls.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, my mom started this business. I don't. Do you know the story about my mother?
No, I want to hear it.
Okay, my mom is a fashion designer and a master tailor, and she started. I mean, that's a really nice story. I should send you my. I did a what do you call it? A presentation about it.
Wow, I've met her.
Yeah,
I met her. I liked her. I met your parents about, I don't know, a year and a quarter ago or a year and a half ago.
yeah,
First time, first time.
yeah. Well, my mother's a very energetic person, but she started at a very young age, and when she got married, she continued to, to sew and design fashions, and she had held a really tiny fashion show in Hong Kong that many people, in her generations who are still alive, or maybe a year, or 10 years, or 20 years younger, still know about, the smallest fashion show in the world. Um, but when she was when my parents moved back to Indonesia, after I graduated high school, I went to the U.S. and my mom and my dad went back to Indonesia. Some of our old staff came and said they wanted to learn to sew. So my mom thought, instead of sewing human clothing, which uses a lot of fabric, she'll sell doll clothing, which uses less fabric, but is the same sewing technique, basically. You learn everything you need.
Uh-huh.
And my grandfather, my mom's dad, saw that, and he brought it to Germany and found a market for that. So my mom's business started to grow, and I took over the marketing of that in 95, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I was running that, basically the marketing of that business, or selling my mom's creations from Germany, and I still do that now.
Oh, wow. Where were you living in Germany?
Near Frankfurt.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you had all sorts of dolls and more than dolls. What all did and you have local people,
Yeah.
a few.
My mom's neighbor. I mean, well, that business has sort of ended because the lady's was a bit. I don't know. She thought she could make a really easy money, but she stopped. But anyways, my mom's neighbor wanted to start a business selling on Amazon anything that was made from denim fabric, yeah, jeans fabrics.
Yeah.
She asked me if I could, help her source some stuff, and I thought, I'm not going to source it. I'll just produce it myself. So I never used to like to sew, but I bought myself a sewing machine, and I've created pillows with, from denim fabric, from old jeans. I've created stuffed cows from old jeans, and that's what I've done. I've hired two ladies here from the village, and one of them is a young girl whose contract was canceled after the pandemic started. So I've given her a job, and she's learning how to sew, and she's become very creative. And yeah, that's what I've got on the side as well.
Huh. That's neat. That's all neat. So I've but Tanya told the story of her life in great detail, and as you can imagine, right? But so she was born in Hong Kong, and let's see, your mother's German, your father's Dutch,
Yeah.
and your father is Dutch Indonesian, several generations. Are
Yeah.
third generation?
We're the fourth. I'm fourth generation living in Indonesia from our family.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and basically, I thought if the family is centered in Jakarta way back, but I know there was years in Singapore, and then I don't know. Where did you grow up? What do you remember?
I was born in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
You all get around.
the best is when people say you don't look Chinese. I was like, well, no, okay, my parents are Chinese. I grew up in Hong Kong and Indonesia and Singapore. Yeah, I lived in Europe for a while, but not that long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes,
In
I
where? In
lived
Germany?
in Germany for 12 years, so that was quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always homesick for Indonesia, which is why I moved back, and that's why. And then I met my husband, and yeah, I married the Balinese man.
You married who? Your husband?
He's a cousin of Tanya's husband, actually.
No kidding.
Yeah,
No kidding. And that's me. How'd that work out?
it's good. I have a fantastic relationship with him, but he's a very, very productive person. He's very interested in doing stuff, very creative with his hands. He's not from the hotel or tourism industry. He's an electrician, basically. So he's, completely different than Lempot. Um,
Yeah.
but
You said he's what, basically?
he's an electrician.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very good at
That's always a good thing to know.
very,
You can
very.
work anywhere with that.
Yeah, yeah. He's making wooden dolls for me now to sell.
Is that right? Well, I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah,
That's really good. And when did you all get married?
in 2012.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
wow. Well, that's great. That's great. You now you you went to America when you were after you graduated from high school.
yeah. I was 19. I went to the States.
What'd you do?
I went
Where'd you go?
I went to I ended up going to University of New Hampshire, which was a big mistake. It's a beautiful state, especially, late summer. But other than that, it's very, very desolate.
Is that where that school is that Tanya was involved with? Well, that camp.
Is it New Hampshire? It's up there. Yeah, it's in New England.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that called again? That.
Luke Peterson Camp.
Uh-huh. And they're all over the world. And
Yeah.
that was really interesting. So you went to those camps too?
No, I went to National Outdoor Leadership School
Oh,
in the Ozarks.
oh, my goodness. Who's older, you or Tanya?
I'm older,
How much older?
3.5 years.
Uh-huh. So your trajectories were somewhat different.
Yeah, and I'm
Y-
from. We have the same beliefs or the same. We like to be. We like to grow our own stuff. We like to make our own stuff. But other than that, we're so different.
Oh, yeah. Um, yeah, I can tell that in a minute. Quicker than a minute. Um, so, how long were you in America?
I was there only for a year, unfortunately. I
Uh-huh.
I didn't
Oh.
like it. I mean, afterwards, when I started working with my mom with the doll business, and I went to different shows in the States,
Uh-huh.
the dolls, the conventions that we had, and I went to New Orleans. That was before Katrina. I totally fell in love with New Orleans, and I thought if I would have gone to school here, I probably would never have left the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. My sister went to Sophie Newcomb,
Yeah,
the
the vibe in
women's
New
school.
Orleans was exactly, that was what I really loved it there.
Yeah, I've spent time there, a lot of time when I was younger.
Yeah,
Uh, it was great because you could drink legally there at 18.
yeah,
Uh, and wow, what a place! Yeah.
yeah.
So, uh, so what was it like for you in Indonesia? The time that you spent in Indonesia when you were growing up, mainly in Jakarta. What was that like?
Well, it's very hard to say because I have no comparison yet. For me, I don't know if we would have left Indonesia when I was a teenager, and then went back to Europe, I probably would have, been able to say, okay, this is the way it was. I do know that when we left Indonesia for Singapore, I was very upset with my parents because I loved the laid back way that the Indonesians are, and we moved to Singapore, which is a bit more stricter, a bit more, what do you call it, organized. I like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I really appreciate my childhood because we lived free. We lived in nature. We were surrounded by a very rich culture, and I think that's why when I travel the world and I see people who are either racist, or they're very unflexible, or that things have to be done in a certain way, or they're very judgmental. I mean, I always remember the look of the bank manager's face when I came in to ask for a credit, and I was wearing flip-flops, jeans, and a very wrinkly linen shirt, and he looked at me up and down, and he's like, basically, who are you? I was like, I'm running a global company selling worldwide my doll products. Yeah. And he goes,
So that was in Germany, right?
yeah. And see,
Yeah.
there are judgmental people here too, but it was, for me, it was, for me, we're all humans, and we all crave the basic things in life, and that's what I learned from living here. Family is important, society, the people living around you are important. It's important to know everybody, to be helpful towards other people, because it's going to come back to you, and I really, really miss that in Germany.
Mm. Mm.
That's basically, that's what I learned from growing up here is
Mm.
this society.
Mm. I go to Germany some to I've been a few times because I have Buddhist friends there who have a pretty active retreat. So I have very positive, and it's not an uptight Buddhist group at all. They're really neat.
Yeah.
They're very cool people. So my impression of Germans is just all these really cool, sort of. Some of them are a little uptight. My mother was Texas German,
Uh-huh.
so I grew up with that influence somewhat.
Yeah.
But my experience in Germany is not the same, I guess, as a lot of people's. But I really like being there. Quite different from here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, how do you like living in Bali? You've been here now, 12 years or something.
Yeah. I love it. I feel at home here.
Yeah.
This is where I belong. I mean, I have a German friend who lives in Ahmed, and she says I'm more Indonesian than European, in the way I react to certain things,
Uh-huh.
the way I sort of don't care about certain things, and I guess that's because, I mean, yeah, I grew up here in the formative years, basically, and
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah. What's how do you in what ways are the people here different just in general from the people in Jakarta or your but I guess you spent some time in in West in West Java, did you?
No,
Or was it always around?
I spent time in Jakarta, and Jakarta, of course, is a city. So, for the majority of, I mean, many people are just very hardworking and they're just trying to get by. But for many Jakartans, it's very materialistic. It's very, very superficial.
Uh-huh.
If you wear clothing that they see that you've been wearing that for 2 days in a row, I mean, you get funny looks. Yeah. Whereas here, they couldn't care less. Spot on my shirt. Nobody's going to point that out to me. Whereas in Jakarta, people say your shirt's ripped. You know.
Ah. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Um, is have you had much interaction with the ceremonies here? The the religious life and the ceremonial life, which is it's the religion and culture is sort of one thing.
Yeah, it's very, very dominant here. And yes, because I am married to a Balinese Hindu, and he takes it very seriously. And to keep the peace in the family, I do try to take part in as much as possible and help where I can. I mean, I'm not very good at making offerings, but I will sit down with my mother-in-law and make some if that's that's what's expected of me.
Do you get along with her?
Oh yeah, very, very well.
That's good. That's good.
It's a wonderful family. It's a fantastic family that, that I married into, and they're all,
Oh, that's good. I've heard, very, I've heard that, and I know people that have had bad experiences too. I guess just like anywhere.
yeah,
Well, I'm happy for you that's worked out.
yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine was married, who's been here decades, English and then Australian, and been here like 40 years. She married, I think first she married a Javanese, but then years ago, like 30 years ago, she married a Balinese, and it just didn't work out. Her mother-in-law was just totally against her and would call her stupid because she couldn't make the bantim, the offerings right, and the family just drove the marriage apart.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. Uh, um, well, what's the situation with trash and refuse disposal where you live?
Yeah, not very good. What should I say?
Yeah. Do people tend to throw their trash into streams and stuff like
Yeah,
that there?
they'll throw, they'll unwrap something and throw it wherever they are. But the funny thing is that they do realize that that is a problem, but they just can't. They just don't seem to make this connection. It's really funny that you ask that because I do try to get them to understand that it is a problem. But unlike my sister, I don't start preaching about it because I won't be able to change it. They have to change it themselves.
Uh-huh.
And the lady at the top of the road who has that, the little warung, the little shop, she comments very often on the fact that I always bring a bag and I always bring empty bottles if I'm going to get
Yeah.
arak or
Yeah.
whatever. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, several times I've told her, I said, if my staff comes up, where they're coming from my place and they're coming there and they buy eggs and they have no bag, you tell them, well, sorry, you're not going to get a plastic bag. Go back down and get, reusable bags.
Right. Right.
Laughs about it. Of course, she doesn't do it, but I am working on getting them to be a bit more conscious about.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're so good at saving other things, but when it comes to plastic bags, I don't know.
Yeah. I know. It's a serious problem.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty fanatical about it, but I I can't preach to people like Tanya can. And even I know Indonesians, I know Balinese who care about it, who are living like there's this meditation group, Bali Usada, with a local teacher, Chinese Balinese, who studied Vipassana meditation, but also studied with Chinese healers and herbalists. And so he has a place in Tabanan, and they have a beautiful place there, and this deep gorge. They have two rivers, one on each side coming down. Oh, they're more like streams, very deep. And, there's a lot of trash down there. It's not totally, but it'll collect in like one place. And it's really hard to get down there and get it. I mean, it's no easy task. And it's from, the village upstream. And so I talked to the guy who's running it. He said, they don't want us to tell them what to do. To them, we're city people. They don't want, from Denpasar, they don't want us going up there and telling them what to do. They resent it. And they've been throwing their trash in the creek for centuries, and they just didn't notice the difference when plastic was introduced. So I know it's a big problem.
It is a big problem. It's going to take a very long time for it to change. I remember once I was talking to the mother-in-law from my husband's sister, and she was saying how many people were getting sick because of all the trash that's in the rice fields and stuff like that. And so we had a long conversation about that. And I told her, and she says, yeah, but the government does nothing to help us. I said, yeah, but you guys are more. Yeah, you're the masses. So it is your right to demand that the government helps, yeah?
Yeah.
And then she goes, yeah, you're right, actually. And I said, yeah, I am right. And I said, it's up to you guys to do something. If you think that the government needs to help you to organize waste management, I said, then you guys can go as a mass of people and demand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy,
And then
ain't that
my,
true.
my brother-in-law, he has a group from the whole family, and they clean up. There's a road that goes to the family temple near the beach. This is in the north of Bali, though, and they do it on a regular basis. And they set up garbage cans and they educate the people about throwing garbage into a garbage can. And
You're talking about Limpot.
no, I'm talking about my husband's brother.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Um, well, that's really good. He does that. That's
But see, the thing is that that's where my sister doesn't understand. Where when I tell her that you have to be careful when you tell people what to do, because nobody wants to be told what to do.
yeah.
So you just talk to them and say, it, do you like the garbage situation? Do you like the way it looks? Or do you think we should maybe do something about cleaning it up? Or, what about putting up garbage cans? And you give them suggestions and, have a discussion with them and don't preach because that's not going to change anything. And
Right.
that's how I get them to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, it has to be. It has to be. uh, It has to be directed by the government, by and with with business, and it has to be taken seriously because it's choking the world to
Yeah.
death.
Yeah. I saw a picture on Facebook of a what do you call those lakes that are in front of a dam? Those artificial lakes that are created by by dams.
Oh,
It's called,
artificial lakes created by Dan. I don't know, but go
I,
on.
in German there's a word for it, but I don't know the
No,
English word.
I don't know if there's a word in English for that. There probably is, but I don't know it.
But it was in Bulgaria or something like that, and the whole lake was just covered with garbage, and I showed it to one of the girls that learns English, and I told her, I said, see, the problem's not only here; it's all over the
Yeah,
world.
that's right. And I always say that too. I hadn't said it yet, but it's a global problem. There was a movie called Trashed, and it was narrated by Jeremy Irons, and it came out of, I don't know, about 2012 or something. And the Sukarno daughter, Kartika, is that her name?
Yeah,
Uh, she showed it to Jokowi. Uh, so, well, it's about the global trash problem. It starts off in the Mediterranean with very, very serious, you know, trash mountains just right on the Mediterranean, and it's, well, anyway, okay. Um, well, I pray for a solution to that. What about global warming? What do you think about that?
well,
Uh,
that's the whole. That's about. It's the same thing as with the trash. It's creating a consciousness. Yeah, when people buy a small bottle of water and they don't think about it, they just buy it without using their brain. That's where our problem is. It seems to global warming. Yeah,
yeah,
still
yeah,
there. It's like it's when shopping. If I go shopping and I forget something, then I'll make do with what I've forgotten. Whereas some people just jump on their motorbike or in their car and go to the supermarket again because they've forgotten it. Th- that's
uh-huh,
that's that's not making a conscious decision. It's just reacting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, it's another thing, though, that the solutions have to be the nations of the world joining together and realizing that we're committing collective suicide and have to
Yeah.
change course quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Uh,
always. I mean, that sister and I are very similar. about being sustainable. I remember going to the bank once, and they had this beautiful field between two of the buildings, and there was construction going on. And I asked the guy, I said, "What are they doing there?" He goes, "We're building conference rooms." I said, "Well, what about all these conference rooms? They're empty. Why didn't you start a hydroponic or a farm or whatever?" He laughed at me. I said, "Yeah." I said, "You guys keep telling me about growth, growth, growth. Where are we going to grow to? Our Earth is only a certain size.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
boy.
I'm making enough money to survive. I'm not going to grow anymore. I don't need to."
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about how has the coronavirus affected you? COVID-19.
COVID-19. Well, let's put it this way. I haven't been on a plane for almost a year. That's really, really strange. I've gotten very used to it. I'm sort of becoming very lazy. I don't think I'd want to get on a plane ever again because I'm sort of enjoying being sedentary here at home.
Yeah.
I'm really busy still. I've got time to be creative. Sales has slowed down a bit, but it is very hard to do certain things because of this, the virus, and yeah, I am now starting to feel, that I'm sort of, my nerves are, raw from this whole.
Mm. 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 But has it affected your life in terms of income or?
Yeah, a little bit. Income is slow.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you're aware of what your sister thinks about it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I found that quite interesting. She doesn't believe in it.
No, but yeah. Well, the thing is that she said to me, "Corona is." At first, she told me it's just a common flu, and I tried to explain to her. I said, "Herpes is a virus that affects people in different ways because there's different variations of the herpes virus, and that's the same with the coronavirus. The viruses basically are very adaptable specimens of genetic code because they're not alive. They're not living things."
Uh-huh.
And now she tells me that doesn't exist. And I said, well, the thing is, I have two customers who've had COVID. One lady is suffering really, really badly. She used to call me in the middle of the night. She used to call me early in the morning, and she's in New York, so you can imagine what time it was there. Yeah. And she doesn't do that anymore because she's so exhausted. She said the only positive thing from the whole virus thing is that she's lost weight, which, she wasn't one of those super obese Americans that you usually see, but,
Yeah.
she could have lost a little bit of weight before. But the fact that she's lost so much energy with this lady is surprising because she was nonstop working.
Mm-hmm.
And another customer of mine, she got COVID early last year. When it was pretty much in the beginning, and she's still suffering from breathlessness.
Oh, she's got that's a small percentage, but they're really looking at that small percentage of people who have long-term effects from it.
Yeah, but still, the thing is, it's like I said, the herpes virus affects people in different ways. There's people that get that little, cold sore. There's people that get shingles. I've had shingles. My mother had shingles. My mother suffered for 2 years because of shingles. I only suffered for a few weeks with the shingles. But that's how viruses work. Yeah, they're people's bodies react differently to viruses, and it's not something. It's not something to say doesn't exist. Of course it exists, and my sister telling me that it's created by governments. Governments are suffering because they have to, in whose interest is it to ruin the economy?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. When she told me that, I told her that there's a phenomena happening in the United States, especially in very conservative areas. That is, there have been some nurses who've reported on it. They say it's like a horror movie, that there's person after person that are dying and insisting that there's no such thing as it, that this isn't true, and insisting they're dying from something else. And there's all these people that are coming in, and they're just over and over. They say, some places they say they see it happening every day.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
It's, what makes me sad is that my sister's not a stupid person. She's quite intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that she said to me, "Where do you get your information?" And I said, I watch the news. Yeah, I read the New York Times. I watch Al Jazeera. I watch Deutsche Welle, which is also in English. But I also watch independent media. And she goes, "Yeah, but that's all mainstream." I said, "No, independent media is not mainstream." I said, "Where do you get your information?" She goes, "From the internet." I said, "So why is your internet information true and mine wrong?"
Yeah. What I've found is that mainstream media has never been better. There's something about the Trump era in America that made CNN just, it's so much better than it has been in some other periods.
Yeah. But I
Uh,
mean, some of these journalists, some of these journalists are independent journalists, and they submit their work to the mainstream media, so to say.
yeah.
Yeah, but if you start believing, my friend that lives in Ahmed from Germany, she, we were talking about, I don't know what your direction is, when it comes to politics, but
Oh,
sure,
me?
but but Trump,
I think you probably have a pretty good idea.
okay. Anyways, so we were talking about Barack Obama, and she goes, "Yeah, I used to like Barack Obama until I heard out that he was a pedophile." I was like, "Where did you get that information?"
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh,
And I'm surrounded by these kind of people, and I'm like, if the thing is that that we have people spreading lies like that, and the truth. Truth comes out all the time. If you have an organization, yeah, that like the cabal of pedophiles, there's going to be somebody who's going to leak footage. It can't be. There's nothing secretive in this world. There's always footage being leaked about
yeah,
something.
right, right. Um, yeah, a lot of this disinformation, I don't know which ones, comes from Russia. They're doing it on purpose
Yeah, of course.
to weaken the West.
Yeah.
They found the enormous persuasive power of social media, and there's no limit to what people will believe. I did a meditation retreat, and on the last day when we could talk, a guy who I'd been meditating with started telling me how Hillary Clinton was the head of a pedophile ring, and that they were actually cannibals too, and just on and on. And he said, "Yeah, and it's really true. You can." And he was telling me this. You can see for yourself. And I have a friend here who tends to just eat up all sorts of disinformation. And I tell him, I always like to have him, it makes me mad, but I like to hear what he's saying because I always know what the latest right-wing disinformation is by talking to him. He doesn't realize, he thinks of himself as a very open-minded person who's not right-wing at all, but he doesn't trust mainstream media.
Yeah.
And, pooh, boy, you know, well, anyway, enough of all that. Well, let me tell you one thing. Your sister and I went into a bakery to get the stuff for you guys. And,
Yeah.
you know, it had a sign outside that said to wear a mask. And I did. And we went in, and I said something, but she didn't wear a mask. They were wearing masks. And I said something to her about it, and she said, "Oh, it's all right. They know me." So her way of looking at it is just totally different. And
Yeah.
so anyway, but we love her. Uh, we've stayed there a
That's
lot.
my friend from Ahmed and my sister. They're both, on this. I mean, my sister's more aggressive. That's why we very often get into these situations where I just hang up because I can't listen to it anymore. Whereas my friend just rolls her eyes. And the thing is that I always say the difference between these people that believe in these conspiracies and me is the fact that I'll watch both sides, whereas they only watch the conspiracy side.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm.
And I mean, a very good example, which many people have posted on Facebook, is the fact with the, you know, pissing on the street. If you wear a pair of pants, it's going to stop it. If two people wear a pair of pants, they're going to be more protected. Whereas if you're going to piss, both are naked, you're going to both get sprayed with piss. And that's what basically what the mask is about. Yeah, and it's not. And when people tell me that, I ask myself, what are surgeons? Are they superhumans?
What was the last thing you said?
I mean, a surgeon wears a mask. I was in an operation for 5 hours. What are surgeons that wear a mask for five
Yeah.
hours or 8 hours? Are they superhumans, or
Huh.
are they cloned because it causes brain damage? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's what I didn't hear. Some people say that wearing a mask causes brain damage.
Yeah, recently one of my sister's friends posted a newspaper article about the fact that some doctor has claimed that wearing a mask causes brain damage.
Oh my goodness. Well, um, that's interesting. Wow. Hey, all right. Um, I want to ask you some things about your father. Uh, when I first
Okay.
met Otto um, a year and a half ago, uh, he had a better memory than when I
Yeah,
met
yeah,
him.
he's got Alzheimer's. He has Alzheimer's.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, uh, but still, we had
His
a
his
wonderful conversation. I enjoyed talking with him.
is progressing very slowly compared to many of my friends' parents, but he has
Uh-huh.
Alzheimer's.
Oh, oh, I see. Well, see, when I met him a year and a half ago, he told me about, uh, during the war, he made a point of it that he was in a Japanese prison camp for
Yeah,
Dutch. And he said he was the houseboy to the guy who was head of it. And he talked about that a little, and he talked about how when the war ended, the local villagers came in and just killed that guy right away because he lost his power over them, right?
yeah,
And so he was coming out with interesting details and stuff. And when I talked to him recently, or I don't know how long, a few months ago at your place, the details tended to be gone. So he'd just say, that he was in a camp during the war and then he went to Europe. And so I had to dig for details, you know. Uh, and but I just wondered if you could tell me a little about your father. Well, oh, and also, would you please send me a picture of yourself and him? Can you send one together,
yeah, yeah. I can do
or
that. Yeah.
you can send two pictures? That's all right. Uh,
Recently, well, not recently. But last year we had guests in, I think, in April or May, and he made a really nice photo of me and my dad together.
oh, great. Yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
that.
I'll send you that.
Because I was thinking of making this a podcast and using both. I'm not sure. Maybe it'd be two. But yeah. What can
Yeah.
you tell me about your father that you remember?
Um. Well, I remember one Christmas he started to tell us about his life growing up in Indonesia and about his time in the camp and um, well, first of all, he always told us that his because his father was also born in Indonesia and spoke Javanese and Majoranese. He was taught at a young age, which we were taught as well, that although these Indonesians work for us, they're humans as well, so we have to respect them. They're not our slaves.
Yeah.
So we're all equals, and they're our staff. They're not our maids or whatever.
Yeah.
That even and I remember he told us that when the war started and the Japanese came, the Indonesians thought Japanese were going to free the Indonesians. Indonesia didn't exist basically till after World War II. Before it was
Right.
just a collection of islands. And the Indonesians thought the Japanese were going to free them from the Dutch rule. There
Yeah.
wasn't Dutch rule. The Dutch have a way of coming into a country in the colonial times. If you study colonialism, many countries when they colonialize a country, they'll take over everything. The language becomes important. That's why you have many African countries that speak French. That's why India speaks English. The law is taken over, etc., etc. The Dutch are traders. They buy and sell.
Yeah.
So the laws in Indonesia were set up by the Dutch using Javanese law.
Oh.
Um, it wasn't set up basically in all over the island. It was every sultanate would basically, or every kingdom had its own law, but the Dutch came and connected everything. They brought the roads, they brought the postal system, they brought the schooling system, etc., etc. Anyway, so the Indonesians thought that the Japanese were going to free them, so the Dutch were being picked up. My dad remembers that first the Japanese came and took his dad away. Then later the
Yeah.
Japanese came and took him and his sisters and his mother away. So they were all as a family in a little unit. And then he was taken away from his mother and his sisters. So he didn't know. He got a postcard. Somewhere I have a copy of that postcard that he got from his mom. It was all, dictated by the Japanese. It was all supposed to be written in, normal capital letters so that the Japanese could decipher it. There was no secret code, nothing. That's the only thing that he knew his mom was still alive. So he was in a camp, and they were given a choice of either education or work. And my dad thought, if I was going to work, I'll get food. Yeah. So that's what he
Smart.
chose. Yeah. So he worked in the field, and he worked building or making toothbrushes. So
Yeah.
he got breakfast in the camp, he got lunch at the work, and he got dinner at camp.
Yeah.
Uh, but he lost because of this camp. Yeah, I mean, it was mainly Dutch, but there were some Swiss, there were some Austrians, there were some Germans. But he lost respect for elders, and he lost all faith in Christianity because of his camp experience. Because Christians, we always talk about love thy next. Yeah, and elders are supposed to take care of the young kids, but he saw these older people stealing food from kids. So he had no respect for older people.
Mm.
I mean, he told me about how when it was King's Day or Queen's Day, was it Queen's Day? I think it was. The Japanese provided a buffalo, and it was cooked, and they would all feast on it, and afterwards the latrines would be full because people weren't used to eating food anymore. He told me stories about how he would be in his room, and the guy next to him had passed away.
Mm.
And but the thing is that and he also told me once about how he escaped with a friend of his, two preteens or early teen kids. They escaped the camp, and they were running down the road, and the Japanese, of course, were looking for them. So the Japanese lady, so by that time, the Indonesians had realized the Japanese haven't come to free them from the Dutch, but they've come to take it over Indonesia. And
Yeah.
so this Japanese lady hid them under these rooster baskets, the kids, so that they wouldn't get caught. Um, but my dad always taught me that he doesn't hate Japanese. He has no hate for them because he said it was a different situation. It was war. And many of these people, these soldiers and these commanders and lieutenants or whatever, they were doing their job. They weren't the ones who could decide what was going to happen. They just did their job.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of many. I've read many books about Dutch people who had been in camp, who now live in Canada or the States, and by now they probably passed away. But who experienced the same thing as my dad, and how they had this hate for Indonesia and this hate for the Japanese. But you can't compare 1930s and 40s to now. Yeah, I mean, it's different people.
Yeah.
And it was a different situation.
Mm.
That's all I remember from what my dad told me, basically.
Mm. Mm. What about your mother? What'd she have to say?
About the war?
About anything. Yeah, the war. I mean, is there just anything interesting about your mother you want to say? I mean, you already said one thing about her being a fashion designer and all that.
I remember once visiting my grandmother, and she brought out this little piece of, it was a very raggedy fabric that was, stitched together, and she goes, your mom made this when she was 4 or 5. I was like, oh wow, I can't even do that. I'm, 18?
Huh.
So my mother's been creative at a very, very young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh.
she decided she
Well.
was a fashion designer, and she wanted to become a master tailor. And our family, I mean, my parents are related. I don't know if you know that.
No.
They are related. I have a family tree here. I have a lot of it's in German, but can you read German?
No.
Oh, okay. I have my mom's dad wrote diaries. It's super interesting. All this stuff about the Hitler times and stuff like that. Anyway.
Wow. Wow. Well, I've studied a little German, but no,
Yeah.
I couldn't. I couldn't.
Super interesting. Anyways, our family has a lot of. Sebentar. Our family has a lot of. Taruh aja di dapur, saya nanti ambil. Our family has a lot of engineers and educated, a lot of scientifically educated people. But my mom's not at all scientific. I'm more of that scientist. I'll research stuff before I sew something. My mom will sew something, and then research it later.
Huh.
So my mom wanted to become a fashion designer and a master tailor, and my grandfather was a bit upset because we're a sort of more of an engineering family. But when he realized how good my mother was, and she finished her fashion school and her master tailoring in the same period of time, within 2 years, which normally takes 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she was quite, yeah, she's actually, I mean, she still is very good, but she always says she's outdated. Yes, that's true. I mean, fashion's changed. But her technique is still there, and she has a very good eye for what fits together, colors that fit together, and patterns that fit together. I'm trying to learn that, what my mother learned, but I'm trying to, but then I'm creative like my mom. I do a lot of stuff with my hands like my mother, but I'm more jeans and t-shirt than my mom.
Hey, you said your parents are related. How?
My dad's dad and my mom's mom are cousins. Their mothers were sisters.
So they're like,
Kissing cousins.
well, they're second cousins, or they're
Kissing second
they're
cousins.
yeah, their second or third cousins are once removed. Every once in a while I figure that out, but I can't remember. So
Yeah,
they're far enough away. It's all right.
Yeah. Oh, well, we all turned out normal. Me, my brother, and my sister.
Yeah. That's far enough away. I know a couple who are first cousins that have been together many years and had a child.
Yeah.
But I've only known that once in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't say who it is because not everybody knows it. Well, well, that's all really interesting. I really appreciate it. Now, listen, when this virus passes, you bring your father here when you're in this area, and we'll get together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And same goes for you. If you're here on your own, we'd love to see you.
Yeah.
We live in Sanur. You know where Murtasari Beach is and
Yeah. Well,
Mercure Hotel.
yeah. You can send me the address if I ever think that I'm going to go down that way. And maybe
Yeah,
give me some tips on because my idea behind the yoga and the meditation was um it was about making conscious decisions. People were always saying, yeah, I can't do yoga, and I said, well, anybody can do yoga, anybody can meditate. Yeah.
yeah, right. That's very true.
Yeah, and I did a few YouTube videos for a couple of my friends, and I was like saying, okay, now you're going to take a pencil and you're going to draw circles, and all you're going to concentrate is on these circles. And she goes, that's not meditation. I said, yes, it is, because all you're concentrating on is these circles that you're drawing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
many people, their minds tend to wander, and they start thinking about the bills they have to pay and stuff like that. And I said, no, this is yoga. This is, you're breathing in, you're breathing out, and you're drawing a circle. You're drawing a circle. You're drawing a circle. And that's the type of thing that I want to do. I don't want to do your typical, yoga retreat or whatever it is. I want to teach people about switch your phone off for 3 hours and just, I don't know, draw flowers.
That's a type of yoga.
Yeah.
Yoga is from yoke, which means, like to have some discipline or limit yourself in some way to concentrate, for the body, for mind. There's, different approaches.
When I hang out my laundry, I concentrate on my breath. That's all I'm concentrating on. I'm not even paying attention to what I'm doing with my laundry, but I'm concentrating on my breath. And when I tell people that, and they said, but that's not yoga. I was like, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's meditation.
Yeah.
And I tell people that everybody meditates, doing some things, driving,
Yeah.
walking.
When I tell people I enjoy hanging up laundry, they're like, "What? Are you crazy?" I'm like, no. It's like, these are the
That's
20 minutes I have for myself where I don't have to do anything but concentrate on my breathing, and I'm hanging up laundry. It's the most peaceful time, and basically I'm being productive at the same time as doing something for myself, my body, my soul, my spirit.
yeah. Well, that's great. That's great.
That's what I want to teach. I want to teach that anybody can do yoga. Anybody.
Yeah. Well, that sounds very accessible.
Yeah, because that's what I always thought yoga was. You have to be super fit, you have to look good and tight, you have to look good in, just your yoga bra and whatever. And I don't. I mean, I don't have my sister's body. I mean, you saw that.
Yeah.
When I did the yoga retreat, I was like, oh my gosh, that a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga is incorporated in the Balinese religion or the Balinese culture.
How so?
Well, when they start when my husband and I go to a temple or a shrine or we start our ceremony, he folds his hands in I don't know what it's called, where it's the palm and the back of the hand are together and the thumbs are touching.
Yeah, well, that's a mudra.
Yeah, one of those mudras, and he'll meditate. It'll be short, but he'll meditate. He's completely gone.
Yeah.
And it's about the way you sit and the way you breathe and the way you concentrate on just that moment. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, people tend to think that meditation is doing some special something, and it's sort of. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Good. I just screen changed because I hit something. And it's actually not doing some special something. It's just being yourself. Like you said, you could be following your breath. I think the key thing with yoga and meditation would be some activity, practice, something that you do that where it takes you away from being enslaved to the thought stream
Yeah.
and makes you settle more deeply into yourself
Yeah.
in a broader way,
Yeah.
a deeper way, a wider way.
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh,
It's about making the coffee. It's about grinding the coffee beans. It's about, putting it into the coffee maker and heating up the milk. And you're only concentrating on just that. It's not about pressing a button and you got coffee.
yeah, that's what the Jesuits call ajequodages. Do what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's essential in Zen. There's a Japanese phrase, Mimitsu no Kafu. It's old, it's not modern Japanese.
Yeah.
It means careful attention to details.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true though. But the Japanese, when a lot of their things, it's a lot of their things is like, I love the Japanese embroidery, sashiko. I love the Japanese tie dye, shibori. And it's all it's very ceremonial. It's very, there's so much. I mean, when I get into that stitching or when I start doing the tie dyeing, I'm so into that, and that's it. And yeah. I never thought about it that way.
Mm. Yeah. My teacher said, who was a Japanese Zen teacher, in the West they usually say Zen master.
Yeah.
I get a little tired of that term. And he said that most people think of worship as, having some special something to worship, right? And
Yeah.
to me, worship means what's worthy of your attention, really, is what. And he said, for us, it's just whatever we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really great. That's really great. Well, look, it's been wonderful talking with you.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the next time we talk
Okay.
and meet. We don't get out of here that much, but be good to come check you out there.
Yeah.
You're near a med. I like going to a med. It's good for snorkeling. It's good. You don't need to have a boat. You can just snorkel right off the beach there. What's that beach called? The one where you can just, not the one where the Japanese shipwreck is.
Lipa?
Yeah, that's it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it very easy, very accessible. You're sort of on your own. You can go when you want and come back when you want.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, thanks a lot, and give your father my regards.
I will.
And send me that picture.
I will.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
take care, Claudia. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you very much, Claudia. And now, with your permission, we will go to talk with your father, Otto Ionker. Oh, I mentioned an Indonesian artist and sculptor who came from the same part of Indonesia where he grew up in East Java, which is near Bali. And that's Alex Wagers, who was the tool maker, blacksmith, sculptor, artist, then Leonardo da Vinci of Carmel Valley. And you'll see that Otto sees a lot in terms of trade and business. That's what he was involved in. And so when I ask about Sukarno, he says, well, there was more government control under Sukarno. And then what do you think of Suharto? He said, well, things were more open then. Well, that might have been true for business, but it certainly wasn't true for free speech and civil liberties and that sort of thing. Suharto was a dictator, and people were glad to be rid of him, and now look back fondly at Sukarno. But Suharto developed Indonesia a lot. So as you might imagine, this is the gamelan music I recorded walking from the car to the house down below to meet Otto and Claudia and the nice people who worked there, whose names I forget. Okay. You were born in Java.
I was born in Java, yes. I was born in Indonesia. At that time it was still a Dutch colony. Mm-hmm. My father was born also in Asia, so it's...
Your father was born in Indonesia. What about his father?
No. No. His mother was German, so it's, my father was born there, and he studied in Indonesia also. And I went to Holland and became also an employee of the colonial government, and for that you needed the Bahasa. The Bahasa he studied not only. Because in Java you have different languages. East Java is Javanese, and if you go to West Java it's Sundanese. It's totally different. The Javanese culture is, it's quite interesting. So we lived from the beginning in the east part of Java. And I like that very much. The Javanese are very nice people. If you go to Jakarta, that's the Sundanese. Mm-hmm. They are different, and of course in the big city like Jakarta, Batavi as it was that time, is not the same. Java, East Java is a very settled, what we call slow and calm society. It's as opposed to the Sundanese. Yeah, I only remember a few words. That's what they call it when you say yes sir. As in gay and doro, gay is the Javanese word for yes. And if you have the what we call the Indonesian. West Java is totally different. Yes, sir. There's the ja tuan.
Yeah.
Yeah. We say.
You can say that here.
Yeah. And ja is of course because tuan is tuhan, sir. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's where I grew up, and I went to school. And then, of course, we had the war, and we were in a Japanese camp. After that, I went to Holland to finish my education. And, And after that, I started working for a company. I was back in Indonesia and a trading company. And I also worked for the singer company. My end career was the singer company.
Singer sewing machine.
Singer song. I built a factory in Surabaya for that company. And yeah, it was interesting.
So you were born in 1930.
January.
January in East Java.
Yep.
That's near here, near Bali.
Yeah.
And how old were you when the Japanese invaded?
1942.
1942?
Yeah, that's right. And it was lasted 46, yeah, something like that. 45, 46.
45.
Yeah.
45.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, 45.
Well, not
I went at that time then back to Holland to finish my high school. And I didn't want to stay in Holland. I didn't want to stay in Europe. I wanted to go to Asia, and I joined a trading company, a Dutch trading company.
So,
and I was in Indonesia.
So, the war ended in August, 1945.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember about the war? What did you do during the war?
I was in a camp.
What sort of camp was it?
I was first together with my mother and my sisters. It was the beginning, and later on I ended up in a Japanese man's camp, and worked in a factory. I was making toothbrushes and brushes in the mountains.
I remember you told me a year ago that you became sort of like the houseboy for the head of the camp.
Yeah, I had this because they found out that my father had a high position, and they like to do that because then they can get contacts and so on.
They can get what?
Contacts with.
I see.
The contacts because we were all split up. I was first together with my mother and my sisters in the family concentration camps, and then I was reached a certain age and I was taken out. And I was in a men's camp.
In a men's camp.
Yeah. My father was? No, I don't know. I never met him. It was totally different.
Yeah, but you were like a houseboy for the head of one of the camps.
Yeah, not that long. Not that long. I went later. I ended up in a toothbrush factory. Yeah. Yeah, and yes, I have been working there.
What were the conditions in the camp like?
Actually, we had enough to eat. You know, we had still 3 portions in the day. They were baking bread, so we had bread in the morning, and lunch we had warm, and in the evening there was a more important. We had a pretty good restaurant. I mean, there was some very. Yeah, it's amazing. We have not seen. I have not, and I don't remember a typical camp life.
Yeah.
Under the Japanese. I think the women were worse off, not in the beginning, but later on. When I met my mother, which I had not seen right from the beginning, even before the Japanese.
Hi, I'm Claudia.
Hi, David.
So
This is my sister.
Yeah.
Did you meet your mother after the war?
Yeah. Again, I met my mother. She was in the hospital. I can tell you, she looked much thinner than Gandhi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. She was.
So she was not in a camp that was as nice as
she was already in a hospital. So she was in a camp, but she had she was alive, and came through quite all right. Fortunately, I could help at that time. Right after we had it at the camp. Had it lasted another year, then she would have been gone.
You told me last year that when the war ended, the people from the village or from the town came in and killed the Japanese head of the camp.
Yeah, okay. They were. That was the Japanese had not thought actually in the beginning that the Indonesians were going that way, because in the beginning the Indonesians were pro-Japanese, but that had been slowly changed.
So at the beginning of the war, the Indonesians were pro-Japanese because Indonesians were already under Dutch occupation. So they were regarding the Japanese as liberators until they found out that the Japanese were not liberating them, right?
The Japanese liberated them for political reasons and only in sayings and having songs and meetings and things, but it's all a lot of crap.
Yeah,
it was not, because they took care of, and if they needed to kill some, they did without any problem. It's the Indonesians. I fled from the camp right after the war because it took me too long. The settlement, we had to wait, and I ended up in a kampung, and I remember the Indonesians were telling some of their experiences with the Japanese. So I have worked in toothbrush factory in on the mountains in Bandung Club, between Jakarta and Bandung. It was actually a camp. It was originally military camp that was nicely set up, and they had nice central kitchen. And we had some Chinese in the camp who were good cooks, so we had reasonably good food.
You mean Chinese Indonesians?
No, they were Chinese, but they lived in Indonesia. They were families from Indonesia. Yeah. They were not Chinese. They're from China. They were Chinese families born and raised in Indonesia, but they were pure Chinese.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult for me to really structure it back, because first of all, and things come back when I start to talk or meet people that have had the same experience.
Yeah.
Or with but actually, sometimes comes to me in either I dream and something repeated, something that really happened to me, but I didn't know where my family was. My father was not in that camp. We were lucky. We had the camp where also the Chinese were there, so we had the kitchen was run by Chinese, so there you have good food.
Yeah. So
I have not real hungry. Yeah, I know what hunger is, in the sense that you would like to have an ice cream or like a cookie or some fruits or some things like that.
Would you like an array of different cake?
What's that?
Would you like a different mix of cake? I have lots of yummy.
You just give me what you think I would like.
Apple pie for sure.
Yeah.
And brownie cake as well.
So you said
you must understand. My father's born in Indonesia too.
Yeah.
And he spoke fluent Javanese and studied that language, and the local law, the cultural law, this was My father was actually worked for the government, and he was in the, but he was involved in because the Indonesians still had their local languages in schools and so on. They were not forced to go on only what we call the Bahasa Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had studied the Javanese language, so he knew the Javanese high and low. So
When did Indonesian become the official national language?
wow, I think that was already the Dutch allowed that because they had to do that in order to get a structure that goes beyond one city than another city.
Yeah, right.
And because the Indonesians very different, because I didn't know that until I was later in Singapore or Malaysia, and I saw how much higher social standard in Indonesia, particularly Java, was, and so no.
Higher than what?
Higher than Malaysia.
Higher than Malaysia?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Higher than Singapore?
Yeah, Singapore is a trading company. This Chinese
Trading company.
trading.
some
What did I
delicious-
say? Trading company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's a spoon
Should
for
we
you.
sit at the table because there's tea and
you want to sit there?
No, I'm gonna bring the table closer to you.
Okay.
Right.
yeah.
It's more fun. You can just stay put.
You want me to help you?
No, it's okay. It doesn't need sugar anyway. And we don't like sweetened condensed milk.
Indonesia had what they call the normal Bahasa, or the Malays, as we call it, Malayish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I fought my way. I was one of the first, as a matter of fact, kids to get out of the camp.
Yeah.
And I spoke Malay. You must not forget that, because my father spoke.
So you spoke Malay,
I spoke Malay. Yeah.
which is very close to Indonesian.
Yeah, it's because that was the common what the common language was in Indonesia. But if you were in Java, in East Java, they didn't speak that. They spoke Javanese.
Yeah.
Yatuan, no, we did not. It's Nge Ndoro. Nge is a Javanese word for yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Ndoro is sir.
Gedoro.
Yeah, Nge Ndoro.
I know Mongol.
Yeah.
Mongo.
My father had studied the Javanese law and the Javanese language. So he
How did he do during the war? How was he after the war?
was okay. He left. He organized with the Indonesian government settling the sugar industry, for instance, in East Java, to put it under a real control by the government. And my father had a position, so he knew a lot of also foreign people. And my mother had a very active social life, and they were bridge people, and they had bridge every week and bridge clubs and so on.
Oh, yeah.
So that all these kind of things.
Sort of colonial life.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We had I was the eldest. I had two sisters who were younger than me, and we had an Indonesian educated girl as the basically taking care of kids, and I know my father went through very traditional way of dealing with the local customs that you have and the people that you have employed. And also, so then we had no problem compared to sometimes other people
Yeah.
did not.
When you say other people, You mean other Dutch Indonesians?
Yeah, other Dutch people who had, they were working for foreign companies. So so he knew the people in the Indonesian social and political structure, and of course they respected him because he spoke Javanese with them, not Bahasa or just Indonesian.
Oh, I
You
see.
see this.
So people were speaking Indonesian back then.
You had the common.
That was the trade language.
That was the trade language.
Yeah, I just don't know how far back
Yeah,
it
yeah,
goes.
that's-
It goes way back?
Yeah, it goes. But it was started. The Dutch, I think, have. I don't know that exactly, but yes, and he later he studied also Sundanese because he was involved in dealing with the people and in these areas and Java was only in Java and Madura. We did not know what it was like in the other parts, and those were mostly under control of foreign companies that have what do you call plantation companies or
Yeah.
industries and so on.
What was the name of the country then? Was it Dutch East Indies?
That was the English term, but
Yeah, that's right. What did you all call it?
Netherlands India,
Pardon?
Netherlands Indies.
Oh, Nederland Indies?
Netherlands, yeah, it's yeah,
Uh-huh.
the Netherlands, the Dutch East Indies.
Uh-huh. Now, after the war, Indonesia, the native local Indonesians fought for their independence from the Netherlands. Nederland,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How did that affect you and your father and mother and your family?
Well, for us, we did not, because we went repatriated to the Netherlands or sent to the Netherlands.
Oh, you went to the Netherlands after the war?
Yeah, and because there was no education, that came back later. But we went, and also, you know, it was the structure was there was the between Indonesia and the Dutch a war going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, what did you do when you went back to the Netherlands after the war?
I was working for. I worked then for a Dutch company, and I went.
You're only 15 years old when the war.
Yeah, and I had to go to school. I had to finish.
Right.
I had to start my high school.
So you went to high school in Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then, so did you go to college after that?
No, I didn't go to college because I didn't want to study. I wanted to start working for a trading company. Trading companies were becoming very, very important. And it was also a question for my father to pay for that because actually when I was asked if I wanted to study, I said, but I wanted to become a doctor, so I wanted to do medical.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to go to medical school. That was my interest, you know.
But you didn't do that.
I didn't.
No.
It was also expensive because it would be that I would have to study in Holland, and you know, you have to go live somewhere and be a member. We did go to do some schooling until it was totally finished, and I ended up working in a factory. I was looking for opportunity, and I knew actually I wanted to go to university. As a matter of fact, at that time, my wish was to become a doctor.
Yeah.
But as I finished high school, and I went to a lyceum. I did not do no normal high school in Holland. But there was another thing, is that I had the feeling in studying as a doctor that you are not free. It's not. You are very, very strict government structures on how you work and things like that. And of course, we have family in Holland. My father's mother, who was German, by the way.
Oh, your father's mother's German.
My father's German was German.
And your wife is German.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And she's in Germany now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to work for a trading company at what age? 18, 19, 20?
I think it was 18.
18?
Yeah, 18.
And
It's a Dutch trading company. One of Harmsen Verwij and Dunlop is quite a big company.
and you stayed in the Netherlands then?
In the beginning, and then I went to Indonesia.
You came back. You remember what year you came back?
I don't remember.
Maybe 1950?
Yeah, 50. 49, 50.
Yeah, around the time the Korean War
Yeah.
was happening. So when you came back to Indonesia, it was no longer the Netherlands.
Dutch East
Indies.
Yeah. But I think it goes so fast then, you have a situation of the whole colonial set, not only the Dutch colonial, the British and the French and the other countries that were in
Right.
the other parts. Indonesia, of course, was very big and very loose from that because of the Dutch East Indies is an island.
Was it the same islands as now?
Yeah, it's
From Timor.
yeah,
It had all of Timor then
yeah,
to Aceh
yeah.
and sort of,
You have
Borneo and
You had Borneo, Sulawesi, Sumatra, Java, Madura, and then the islands, and then all the way to New Guinea.
right.
And it was
Yeah,
all,
Bali, Lombok,
Oh, yeah,
Flores, Komodo,
Yeah.
all those.
yeah, all those.
Yeah.
It's actually it was a wonderful. I was happy that I was born and raised in Indonesia.
I knew a man from East Java who came to California in 1935. So you were only 5 years old. But he was a great artist and sculptor.
The 35 was still a colony.
Yeah, yeah. And he came to California and lived in a little place called Big Sur and became very well-known sculptor and artist. And he was from East Java.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll show you some of his art at some time.
Yeah.
Because he brought in Javanese themes.
Thank you. That's enough.
Yeah.
Because you have.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty. It's very good tea, too. So everything was okay. You were happy to be back in Indonesia and working here. Then when did you get married? How young were you? When did you meet your wife? So a while later.
My parents met my wife first.
Oh,
It's all these things have. I just took the best job I could get. It was a trading company,
yeah.
and that quickly I saw that the Dutch were not going to be my place. They were too slow in allowing to be trained to have position possibilities.
So you came here. You came back.
I was here already in the Dutch trading company.
It's still in East Java?
No, it wasn't all over Indonesia. Harmsen Verwij and Dunlop was the company. It was quite a big trading company, and so that what. But
Where were you centered? Where were you living?
I was. I've lived in a number of places. I've been in Sumatra, and then also in Java, and that's basically it.
How was Sumatra?
Oh, that was interesting. I was in Medan.
Oh yeah, Medan, yeah.
Medan was it was an interesting because you automatically you're close to Singapore, and Medan was a much more open place than Jakarta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Medan. I at Sumatra. What was you would say that, well, it's all in control, yes, but the whole social structure and the people have been for years and years close to Singapore and Malaysia, the Dutch, right? And so it's not a company that was close to too much. Java was much more to the culture and the structure of Indonesia, culturally. And also legally for the Dutch, they were much closer there, and therefore also more restricted to free development, which was in some of the other areas.
Well, when you got married, you were living. Tanya was born in Hong Kong. How long were you in Hong Kong?
Oh yeah, quite some time already. I was working for the Singer company.
Yeah, years in Hong Kong.
Years. Yeah, I was a couple of years in Hong
And
Kong.
and then you were back. She was back here, and then she said you lived in Singapore
Yeah, Singapore
for some
Malaysia.
years.
Yeah,
And weren't you living in Europe or?
yeah. I worked also.
You lived all over. Yeah.
For me, it was looking for opportunities and enjoying life. I didn't want to be too restricted.
Yeah. You were living in Switzerland?
Yeah,
What other countries in Europe?
Belgium
Yeah.
and Germany
Mm-hmm.
and Holland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. They're all pretty Germanic.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, were you were here when Sukarno was here,
Yes,
and were you here when Suharto took over?
yes.
What was that like? There were a lot of people killed then.
You know, the world is not that was not that open in those days. It's of course for Indonesia, for the Indonesian government, and for those people who had control over that what they could control. They had problems, and so we would not hear that much. And of course, I don't. If you ask me that, I cannot tell you that because simply I don't remember. There was much change.
Yeah. You have any opinion of Sukarno or Suharto?
I know Sukarno. Yes, I have met Sukarno.
Oh, you have?
Personally, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
And Suharto, I cannot remember.
Uh-huh.
I knew many people in government. Yes, I know. Because
But generally, these days, Sukarno is seen as the founding father who
Yeah.
really cared about the people, and Suharto is seen more as a dictator that made life difficult for a lot of people, but brought a lot of progress.
yeah, you say it already because it's Sukarno is a much more government control situation than Suharto. Suharto was already, when you had Indonesia, already much more independency when you were pretty far away from Jakarta.
Uh-huh.
And you know, it is. There are not many countries like Indonesia.
Right, they're so spread out with all these different types of
That's right.
people.
And these are not small territories. These are bigger islands with totally different cultures.
Yeah, right.
And these cultures were there in the Dutch time, because the Dutch did not restrict the real local cultures, you know.
Yeah.
Because I remember I've lived in Medan, and how different it was from
In Sumatra.
from Jakarta, for instance. You know, totally different. But I also, because we lived in Madura, the island, right? Madura. Still my father's town. But you know how different that was. And East Java, how different that was to go to West Java. That's the most terrible thing that can happen to you. Yeah, to go to Jakarta or Betawi. When East Java was completely different. It's not. If I remember the difference, because I've been in Vietnam,
Yeah.
Cambodia, and Singapore and Malaysia. In the times that they still were dependent, so to say. And compared to the Dutch setup, I think that they were still rather primitive. The word here to be used as the fact that they had this real structure for a big nation that the Dutch had. It had to be, because all these islands, and these islands are not small islands. Sumatra, Borneo, Sulawesi, and so Java, Bali, and Lombok, and then comes Irian. But Sumatra, Borneo, and the West Java is one of the strong and the big things that came from the Dutch already. That was then a colony.
Yeah.
But you had the development of the rubber industry, the oil industry, the what is it, the copper and nickel somewhere also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and things like that. That all were developed and partially what we call private business, not government control.
Right.
And it was actually quite well organized. Because we knew that from the time before the war. And
Yeah. Did you? When did you first come to Bali? So you first came to Bali when you were a boy, or later?
no, I was just already independent from my
Yeah. So you came here in the 50s? Think so?
50s or what will be the 20? Yeah. Yeah. So in the 50s, yeah.
When you were in your early 20s? Or
Yeah.
what did Bali used to be like?
It was much more strong from Balinese point. That was the influence of the people. Of course, it had no touch on the Dutch. The Dutch liked it because it was strong and it was organized.
So it was a lot stronger here from the Balinese point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it? Well, how do you like it now? You have a pretty nice place. You're really in the country. You have a beautiful view of rice fields below you.
Yeah.
And mountains. You know, there's no big street nearby, traffic sounds, anything. So,
I love Bali. I liked it. I like the Balinese people. That you must try to figure out. The Dutch had a colony which was fantastic compared to all the other colonies that existed all around us because of the islands. The differences between that part and that part were fantastic.
So the differences between the different islands in Dutch Netherlands, Netherland East Indies, the islands were very different one from another. Did you see many dances or anything back then?
Yeah. You saw in Bali, definitely, and in Madura. And Sumatra, I have not seen that, but Sumatra was different. It's a totally different atmosphere as Jakarta, for instance.
Yeah.
I didn't like Jakarta, and it's different life. Surabaya, Kediri.
Surabaya now is the second biggest city in Indonesia, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah, so
It's pretty busy, too, I hear.
Surabaya was much more a business like environment and Betawi, you know. And if you went to Bandung or the Central Java, these were all under plantations and things. Or in Jakarta, of course, the local the oil industry and but wat we noemden de buitengewesten.
The what?
Buitengewesten.
What's that?
The areas outside. The areas outside from Jakarta and West Java and Java, let's say. My grandmother spoke fluent Dutch. She was a what I call a fantastic person. I loved her because I got to know her very well because I slept with her. It sounds terrible, but because the house was full. And she had a bed, so a high bed, and so I had something that I got unrolled, and because it was full. She had a house in Laren, and all the families of her children were coming back from Asia, so we were a little bit of sorted out. She was a fantastic person, one fantastic person. And the people, she had Untertaucher.
What's that?
Dutch, German underduikers.
Underwear?
Onderduikers. What do you mean? The people disappear in the cellar and so on. So she had Dutch in the cellar and Germans up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
You mean when?
In this wartime.
Oh, really? She had Dutch in the cellar?
Yeah, but she spoke fluent Dutch. I mean, people would not hear that she's Dutch, was German. I think she had a tremendous love for life and people and all this nonsense for her about all these different political situations. Oopsie.
No, that's enough.
No?
No. We have to leave soon anyway.
So you say we?
Your daughter Tanya drove me here.
Oh, okay. Where are you?
We've been staying in Lumbung Damu. You know her place. And actually, I have a driver waiting there to take my wife and me back to Sanur. But we wanted to come see
is
you.
Your wife here?
She's in Lumbung Damu.
Oh, Lumbung Damu.
Yeah. And we wanted to come see you and see this lovely place. Wow. And I wanted to hear what you had to say. Very interesting, very interesting. How many children do you have? Do you just have 2 daughters? Or?
I have 2 daughters and a son.
Well, where's the son?
He's in. No, I think in England.
Uh-huh. And Tanya didn't introduce me to her sister. Her sister's here. That's her sister right there. What's her name? Is that her sister right there?
Yeah, that's Claudia.
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 All right.
You ever met her?
I don't know. I forget, but maybe I've met her. But I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
Claudia was German Swiss. Germany also.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well.
So.
So you actually, from where do you come now? What is?
Sanur.
No, from your.
Oh, well, I was born in Texas, but I lived in California since I was very young. 21. I went to California when I was 21. I'm 75 now.
You're 75. What time? How much am I? I was born in January 30.
And so I was born in 45.
You were born in 45.
Yeah, you were 15 years old when I was born. You know? Yeah. You're doing good, too. You are. You're very healthy.
Yeah.
And you got a great place where you live.
I smoked. Of course, I smoked. I smoked at the age of 12, 13.
Till when?
Well, it was in the camp.
Yeah, till when? Did you ever stop?
Yes.
When?
I stopped. I was still very young, actually.
Oh.
I think in my mid-20s, mid-20s and 20s.
Smart.
Yeah. I had to give up something, and I picked that one because drinking, not Genever. I was not a big Genever person, but I love whiskey.
Big what?
Huh?
You weren't a big what person?
What's it called?
You weren't a big drinker.
No, I wasn't. No, I liked drinking.
You drink now.
Yeah, but also at that time when I was 20 or something.
Yeah, I had to stop drinking.
Yeah?
Yeah, I drank too much.
Yeah, well, I have had one problem that was very simple. I got rid of that, and I was.
You had one problem you got rid of. What?
From drinking.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, actually. If I have to be honest and tell and be complete in what I tell, I have to start thinking, because of some of the things I've forgotten.
Yeah.
And of course, life is quite different, because in those days, if you're a young guy, you start working for a company, then you send overseas, and particularly in that part of the time in Asia, you immediately, business was not only business for business sake, but also living in an interesting environment, because it's all, and you have money, and so alcohol was,
part of the social scene.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, you had to learn to become measured, to be able to control that.
Yeah.
And then be a socially acceptable person, not who is always drunk at the end.
Right.
And so on. Later on in that side of that life, he said, okay, it was nice, but I think there was much more to it than that.
Well, you were living in a Muslim country,
Yeah.
but there was drinking alcohol there?
No, not for them, because the foreign world was drinking in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you found most Muslims did not drink. They followed the rules.
Yes.
Good.
Because they're separated. The Chinese were the people I had a lot of dealing with.
Yeah, they drink.
And they drink.
Yeah.
And
Did you deal with Japanese much?
In this sense that I was in a camp.
Oh yeah.
And I worked later in a toothbrush factory, and I was still a young boy. I mean.
Yeah.
So, now what brings you actually here to meet me? Why?
Oh, we met last year, and I said I'd come back and talk to you.
Where did I meet you?
At Lumbung Damu.
Lumundamo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you told me about being in the camp and different things. And I said, I want to come back and record you and get these, see about your life. And I've got Tanya's. So, we've been talking for 1 hour and 11 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, it was nice. No, it was interesting to talk to you because you were not only a listener. And sometimes I have a feeling that you sit in a classroom and you are the teacher and you are the only talker. And when sometimes when you meet, not official meetings, but meeting locally and foreign people, or also from Holland, or who lived here at the same time that I did, and they just sit there. There's nothing coming out.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in what you have to say. I have to be careful not to talk too much.
No, I haven't, because I enjoyed it because I was in the industry. It's a trading industry, and it's international. So it's not only Dutch or French. It was a lot of Americans and Australians in there. And in the end, I was not working for a Dutch company.
Permisi, minta bilang Tanya, mungkin kami harus pulang.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
So, yeah.
I'm going to come back in a year.
In a year?
Yeah.
You have to be away for a year.
Well, you're a whole hour and a half away from our... Maybe you are an hour and 45 minutes from our home. How far are you from Ahmed? Just 40 minutes or something?
Yeah.
I love to go to Ahmed. I like to snorkel there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very easy. You just go from the shore.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't need to get a boat. It's easy.
So, are you independent?
I'm a writer and I have websites. I write about Buddhism a lot.
Okay.
But I like to hear about Bali and people in Bali also, since I'm here. Mainly what I do has to do with Zen Buddhism out of Japan. I've written some books and I have websites and blogs.
Wow.
I'm busy.
Well, you must be.
Oh, I'm busy, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to keep working. I live on donations.
Well, I could say that I do the same. Live on donations if I work. I don't. I'm in the business, and for me, there's not that much in writing or things. It's contacts, and sometimes just a meeting. Sometimes short meetings with people, so that things run. Okay, and then I give it to my assistant and let him work it out, and that's how I am now. I mean, I just keep contact, study what's going on, and have to be very. I read a couple of newspapers, and to know what's going on, and to make sure that. That's what I am.
Do you get actual newspapers?
I don't want to waste my time on these because they don't tell me anything that is. and when this.
Yeah. Yeah, Tao. Yeah. Yeah. Terima kasih. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. So, but it's Europe is not my attractive place. It's not for me.
I like living in Asia. I like visiting Europe.
Seumuran sama bapaknya tuh, Pak Ottonya. Seumuran. Berapa umurnya ini 90?
Dia?
Ya.
Dia 90 tahun. Saya 75.
Oh, kurang.
Ya, saya
muda.
masih muda.
Ya, masih muda.
Nah, Anda lebih muda.
Ya, ya 57.
Hah?
Saya 57.
Oh, kelihatan lebih muda.
Ya, 50.
Oh, saya pikir Anda gadis.
Saya sudah 18 tahun
Ya, dan cantik juga.
kerja sini.
Aha.
Sekarang 19
Ya?
tahun.
Oh. Claudia,
Is
that your name?
Yeah.
Have we met before?
No.
I'm David.
I'm Claudia.
Hi there.
My sister.
Yeah, wow. That must be an experience.
What? Being her sister?
Yeah.
I had no choice in it.
So you live near here? You live near here?
I live here.
Oh, you live right here. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. And at that point, my phone died. So thank you very much, Otto Ionker. It was really great talking with you. It was great talking with your daughter, Claudia. Come visit us as soon as this virus passes, or we're all vaccinated. Well, that's it. This has been a Cuke Audio Podcast. I'm DC Booba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Dogga Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.